Excuse me, Lieutenant. You seem to have lost the will to communicate with others. You have friends here. We care about you. Why, just recently, Geordie Wesley and I were saying...
With all due respect, be gone, sir.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are huge Star Trek nerds. Dory's a Star Trek novice, and we're taking her on our first journey through Star Trek The Next Generation. Today, we'll be discussing the Season 2 episode, The Icarus Factor, aka the Daddy Issues episode. Original air date is April 22nd, 1989, and we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, so we're going to split this into two recap things. One, where we'll just start with like the shorter one, which is the B plot, which is like Worf stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we start off, Wesley learns, he's like, oh, Riker's dad is here. So sorry, spoilers to part 2 of the recap. And he's like all like gossiping to Worf, which I love because I'm a sucker for people gossiping.
Also, I love that he chooses Worf.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Worf, listen to this stuff for a second. I got some hot goss for you. And Worf is like, I don't give a shit. Fuck off.
Yeah.
And Wesley's like, well, that's weird. Worf was like not acting like himself. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like Worf in general would not be that interested in gossip. So
yeah,
Wes, calm down.
But he's more mad than usual.
Yeah, he's a little extra harsh.
Yeah. So, because there's like a line. So Wes goes to Geordie and he's like, I was talking to Worf. And Geordie goes, yeah. And then Wes is like, he's really eccentric at times. And then Geordie goes, that's one word for it. So basically, Wes is like, I need to figure out what's going on with Worf. So he does some research. And as it turns out, it's the 10th anniversary of Worf's ascension.
Age of Ascension.
Ceremony.
Yeah.
So, like, they're like, we need to do something about it. And Worf is bummed, though, apparently because it's something that needs to be celebrated amongst Klingons. But, like, Worf doesn't really have Klingon friends. So they're like, what if we do a whole ceremony thing in the holodeck? And as it turns, so they basically set it all up. Worf does it, and it's an interesting ceremony. It's basically like Worf shouts stuff, and then he gets, like, basically tased with what they call pain sticks as he like walks down the middle of like it's kind of like a Soul Train line, if you will.
Yeah.
but just with pain sticks and more shouting.
They're essentially cattle prods, the pain sticks.
Oh, yeah. And so by the end he's like, thank you, and everybody's kind of like, oh, okay.
You're welcome, I guess.
In fairness, it's not that uncommon of a religious cultural ritual to do some like trial of pain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one for pain, but to each their own. If it's not hurting anybody else, then
Jeez, you're no fun.
And yeah, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, I'm not interested in being tased. What a loser.
Boring.
I'm such a square because I don't want to be dazed. I don't want to be cattle prod. So that's done. Basically, Worf is happy. I think it's nice that they Wesley wanted to figure out what's bothering him. Although it's funny though, because at one point so Troy brings Worf to the holodeck, and then she's like, "Have fun at your ascension thing," and he's like, "How did you know? It's a secret." It's like, wow, not a good secret, Worf. Like,
no.
If Wesley was able to basically Google it, then what? How
not that much
secret
of
could
a
this
secret.
ceremony be?
He did just Google it.
Yeah.
Because
damn.
Because he basically got the whole service down, like all the customs. So
yeah,
it's not that secret, Worf.
I feel like there's a disparity there because on the one hand, you've got Worf like, you don't know anything about my culture. You couldn't possibly learn anything. And Wesley's like, I just looked it up on the ship's computer. It was easy. I feel like that right there is like the juxtaposition of season 1 between all of the better stuff in Star Trek, because like season 1, Worf and like other cultures are very like, what? How did you know anything about us? And then like Wesley could just Google it basically. So yeah, okay, Worf, Klingons are not completely unknown. You've been in Starfleet most of your life. You should know this by now.
Yeah. Although, okay, I'm going to logic this out a little bit. Like what it could be. Listen, I don't think this was the writer's intention, but this is potentially how I see it. Worf, as the only Klingon and as someone who kind of feels separated from their culture, he probably feels like, you know, an ownership of it. And I mean, rightfully so, but it's because he didn't grow up with Klingons and he's not surrounded by Klingons. He's probably going to be kind of extra affected by this stuff. And he probably assumes no one bothers to look it up. And since he's separated from the culture, he probably doesn't maybe know what's Googleable or not.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so that's like kind of my defense of it. I don't think that's what they were trying to go for at all. Mm-hmm. They're probably just like Klingons secret, brr. But yeah, that's kind of my defense of it. Sometimes I like to kind of see if I can make the inconsistencies work. And that's kind of my...
Hey, Klingons got a cling.
Yeah, and this is kind of my interpretation of that.
All right, that's acceptable.
Yeah, just that Worf straight up didn't realize that this is a thing people can look up. He thought it was like his own little secret knowledge.
I do find that really amusing, to be honest.
I can absolutely see that. Yeah, okay. So now welcome to part 2 of the recap. All right,
welcome to part 2.
Hold on to your butts, because this is about to get dumb. Okay. So, basically it starts off, the main episode starts off, they're going to Starbase Montgomery because there's some, like, anomalies on the ship, and their engineering people have to take a look, which really, like, kind of pisses Geordi off. He's like, this is kind of ridiculous. Data's like, why don't we turn it off and start it again? But regardless. So then Riker, as it turns out, so the captain of another starship called Ares is retiring. And Riker has been selected to be the new captain of this ship. And Ares is it's a ship that's like going to like a completely different area to like explore the galaxy or whatever. So it would be a very different sort of situation than what they do now, I guess, with the Enterprise. But they're like, we're going to send somebody to brief you. And they send a civilian on the ship to tell Riker, explain like, brief him about the new mission and Ares shit. And then it turns out it's his father, Kyle Riker. I'm sorry, there's something about like an adult, like a senior named Kyle that just is very funny to me. Like the name Kyle isn't inherently bad or anything, it's fine, but just for whatever reason, the fact that Riker's dad's name is Kyle just felt really funny.
Yeah, Kyle's definitely a name that you age out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an interesting choice. So, as it turns out, Kyle and... I'm just going to be referring to him exclusively as Kyle in this recap. Well, in this episode of our podcast. As I always like to refer to everybody in their first names, just to make it a little bit...
weird.
Off. Yeah. So... Kyle and Riker haven't seen each other in 15 years, which is kind of fucking wild.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
That's essentially a lifetime.
Yeah, especially because at one point Riker's like, I haven't seen you since I was 15. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Riker's supposed to be 30. Who do I call about that?
Oh, no. It's not that he hasn't seen him since he was 15. It's he left home when he was 15.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, Riker, I can suspend my disbelief a lot for this show, but I can't do that for saying that Riker's 30 years old.
Yep, that's fair.
I can't do it. He's not old. I definitely would assume that he's like mid to late 30s, but that man's not 30. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes more sense.
Oh my.
What?
Well, yeah, you are absolutely correct. He was born in 1952, so he was in his late 30s when this came out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely could not have passed for 30.
Oh my god, I thought you were going to say something is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
I'm just
Yeah,
like, that's
you
a
were
big
like-
disparity.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say like your microphone wasn't recording or something. I have to start over.
Oh, that would be
Yeah,
terrible.
that's the tone you usually use when something has gone really wrong.
Oh, well, whoopsie doodle. Suck it up, Mom.
Okay, so Riker is in his 30s. Okay, so Riker is like not psyched to see his dad, so he's in 10 Forward having a drink with O'Brien, in which, man, they try to make O'Brien part of the gang in this, and I'm not here. No thanks.
Yeah, they didn't do a very good job of it here. The character that they kind of established for him here is who he is going forward. However, they didn't do a good job of really showing it in this episode. O'Brien is supposed to be the kind of like basic everyman, and here it's very 80s barfly everyman, and it's really not working very well.
Yeah.
Is he the norm of this show?
A little bit, but it's okay. They don't do it like that going forward.
Okay, I mean, I don't have a problem with his character. I just was like, they're really trying to shoehorn him in this episode.
Yeah, he's more relatable later on. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, so Riker's having a drink with O'Brien, and then Kyle comes in. And Kyle somehow knows everybody.
I love the venom that you put into the way you just said Kylan, and then Kyle comes in.
I really hate this man. I really... I have a lot of notes for this episode, and most of it is just me saying, fuck Kyle. I don't like him. He sucks.
Yeah, he does suck. Well, you're going to hate him all the other times that he shows up in the show.
Oh, he's there more?
No, I'm kidding. You never see him again.
Oh, good. Fuck you, Kyle. Just this Kyle, not other Kyles. No offense to other Kyles. I feel like that needs to be said. Oh, yeah. So he's like saying hello to everybody. He knows everyone. And then surprisingly, he knows Dr. P. And he's like, hello. And she's like, kiss me, bitch. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yep, they used to do the banging.
Yep, they know each other in the biblical sense.
Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Maggie. That was very appropriate.
Also, we learned that Dr. P's been married 3 times and she's on good terms with all of her exes, which is like information I don't think I needed to know about, but
I don't think anyone needed to know that.
It totally makes
we
sense
are, though.
that she's been married 3 times, though.
yeah.
Not that she's on good terms, but that she's been married 3 times.
Yeah.
She's definitely a woman with a trail of ex-husbands.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, so Riker, he is like not doing great with seeing his dad. And so he does what a lot of people do and goes to look at old pictures of him and his father in his childhood, in which when I looked at the pictures, I was like, oh, is that like Colorado or something? No, it's Alaska. Mm-hmm. So like, is Riker from Alaska, or
Yes,
is this
he
was
is.
like a trip?
Riker's from Alaska.
He is from Alaska.
Yeah, Riker's from Alaska.
Why does that change everything about him for me?
I mean, what I find mostly amusing about it is how badly he's photoshopped into all of those images.
Oh yeah, they are bad. Oh god, this is gonna stick with me for. I cannot believe he's from Alaska. I never would have seen that coming. I just sort of assumed, I was like, okay, either he's from there or he's visiting. And I'm like, maybe he's just on vacation with his dad. No, okay, so he's from Alaska. Oh, God.
It's okay, do you know how important that part of his character is going to be going forward?
Not important at all.
It's mentioned once in, like, 5 more seasons.
I don't know why this is like, because there isn't an issue with Alaska per se. I'm not sure why I'm hung up on.
Look, I'm not racist against Alaska. It's fine.
It's just, I think it's not a very common place to make people from.
That's
like,
true.
Fictionally. It's not very common for someone to say, I'm from Alaska.
I mean, part of that is
Yeah.
because not many people live in Alaska.
Yeah. Although in the shitty Photoshop pictures, there is like a sprawling future city.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be Anchorage, since Anchorage is like one of the only towns that anyone lives in there.
Yeah, it's the largest city in Alaska.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I kept thinking he was from like Michigan or like the East Coast or something. He felt like a Massachusetts or like, yeah, just states that start with M, I guess. This is gonna stick with me. Man, yeah, this changes a lot for some reason about how I feel about. Not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's just let's just call it jarring.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we know Riker from Alaska, oh my god. Okay, no. Okay, move on. Or else I'm just that's all I'm gonna be thinking about. I mean, I suppose I should have got it when there was a picture he's holding a fish and Worf is like, you're holding a fish. Sorry, no, we're continuing. Okay, Kyle goes to visit Dr. P and she's helping some guy who has a virus and he's going to get soup as his treatment. Yeah, thanks, Dr. P.
Didn't they say like one season ago that like, oh, he got something that used to be called a flu? And
Yeah.
it was like, guys, come on. Make up your mind how future you are.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Pulaski did say the name of a real medicine before she said soup.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's at least giving
Oh, yeah, no,
medicine.
she's giving medicine. But, like, yeah, I just thought it was weird that she's like, PCS. And I was like, what the fuck is PCS? And then she's like, Pulaski.
Pulaski's chicken soup.
And I was like, I wish I could throw my tablet. I watched it on my tablet outside because the weather was nice in Toronto, which is rare, so haha. But I was like, oh, no, I can't. That's dumb. So Dr. P is like, okay, now this is Troy. And Troy gives a compliment to Pulaski that we'll talk about later because I have qualms about this. So, oh yeah, also, I fucking can't with Kyle's jumpsuit. It makes him look like a huge toddler. It's really, it's upsetting.
To be fair, he acts like a huge toddler.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to fight my son.
Wait, spoilers for
whoops.
later in part 2. Okay, so this is something that, like, we'll get into, I suppose, a lot of the Kyle and Troy discussion, I guess, at some point. But so Troy wants to chat with him, and she sort of, I wrote, Troy reads Kyle for filth.
Yeah.
But prior to that, she's like, I said, like, you're feeling, you're also very anxious about something. It's Will, isn't it? You're not as close to him as you'd like to be. And then Kyle decides to bust out the weirdest fucking response to that question. He goes, oh, I don't know. We both have pretty good taste in women, wouldn't you say? Bitch, those are not related things.
Yeah.
These are not related in the slightest. Fuck you, Kyle.
Yeah, he's a bitch, isn't he?
I mean, I assume he's trying to distract her with a compliment.
Yeah, but she's smarter than that.
Yeah, Troy's, in my opinion, I find her pretty badass in this scene.
Oh, she was, honestly, I think this was a great episode for her. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Troy has a whole discussion with Kyle, who's a piece of shit. We'll go into the discussion later. I wrote out the entire thing. Yeah, basically, she calls him out on some shit, and he's a child. And, okay, so now we're, like, Riker's learning more about his like, first officer would be this guy, Commander Flaherty, who speaks 40 languages. And he's like, okay, so that's something. Oh, okay, so Dr. P has a discussion with Riker about his dad, and Dr. P admits that she would have married him in a cold second, which is interesting, or cold minute, which is interesting because I've always heard the term hot minute. So I felt it was necessary to Google what is the difference between a hot minute and a cold minute. And coincidentally, they mean the same thing, except a hot minute is a little bit longer. So fun fact.
That's very weird. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I really was like, I need to know what the difference is because I've never heard anyone say cold minute. Oh yeah, so like Dr. P gives like this whole like sob story about Kyle. Oh, he like 12 years ago, he was like with the group, they were attacked. He was the only survivor, and because he like survived, she was like, "Damn, that boy survives. I like him. Let's get in my pants."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care. Here's my thing. I don't care. Like Kyle is obviously the like antagonist in this episode. I do not care of people like trying to use trauma as an excuse of why they behave badly.
Yeah.
I hate that as an excuse because a lot of people experience trauma and don't fucking act like shit.
Yeah. And I have a lot to say about Kyle and his whole relationship with Will later, but I just want to get it out right now that like,
Sure.
Just because you did some good things and like just because you've done good, it doesn't erase the harm you've caused other people.
Yep.
Yeah.
AKA
I hate-
your son.
Yeah. I don't like that Dr. P's trying to like justify, oh, you know, he went through this terrible experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like that's 12 years ago, so he still had all this time to reach out to Riker, but like didn't. So
Yeah.
I think that's still him not doing a great job at being a dad. That's not on Riker. That's on his father. That's on Kyle.
That is accurate.
Okay. So then, also Riker's like, why didn't you fucking say you knew my dad? And she's like, well, it never came up. And I'm like, excuse me. Was Dr. P not at the egg lunch from last episode?
Oh yeah.
Was she not there for the eggs? Where he said, yeah, my dad wasn't around, so I had to fucking cook.
Yep.
So Dr. P, I think that would have been a good time to be like, by the way, I fucked your dad a few years ago.
I'm
like-
really glad that you remembered that because I wanted to bring up that 2 episodes ago or 1 episode ago, she literally did not remember that his dad existed apparently, and now they used to date, and it's like, oh, that's a really bad inconsistency, but okay.
I wouldn't say, to be honest, I wouldn't say that she forgot he existed. You could the only comment she makes is that, like, Riker accidentally implies that his dad liked to cook, and she's like, your father liked to cook? Which could be interpreted as like, oh, that's a thing I didn't know about him.
Well, no, his father didn't like to cook, which is why Riker did it.
I know.
Oh, you're just...
I think
because in the flow of the conversation, Riker says that he's a good cook because of his dad. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, your dad liked to cook? And he's like, no, he didn't. That's why I did all of the cooking.
I mean, here's my other qualm with this scenario is that, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you meet someone that you know you have a mutual, do you not be like, oh, by the way, I know this fucking person that you know?
Yeah.
That would honestly come, especially if it's your fucking dad. So, like, I would think that pretty early on she'd be like, by the way, like, she didn't have to be like, yeah, I fucked your dad, but she could have just been like, I know your father. I met him on the thing years ago or something. Like,
hey, I know your father. I fucked him.
like we're on what? This is episode 14 of season 2. So like they've been together on this for what, maybe months at this point, and she never had 1 second to be like, by the way, I know your dad. Like,
yeah,
honestly, fuck you, Dr. P. But like a lighter fuck you, not as harsh as Kyle's fuck you.
Yeah, a mild fuck you.
Yeah. Fuck you light, if you will.
Hey, Doc,
Lite.
what the fuck?
A light fucking, if you... No. That... I'm going in the wrong direction. Okay, so, man, there's so much to unpack in this episode. Okay, so then Riker, it kind of seems like, yeah, he's going to be taking the job. So he goes to have a conversation with Troy. And this is actually a very cute scene. They, like, don't... it's kind of light, it's sweet. You get to see some emotion. I guess we'll get into that more later. And then Oh yeah, so then like Kyle shows up to speak to Riker, who like Riker lets him in the room and then immediately is like, "Your time's up, bitch, time to leave."
Yeah.
and and they like fight briefly, just like shout, and then Kyle challenges Riker to Anbo Jujitsu?
Ambo Jitsu, I think.
Ambu Jitsu, whatever. Is this a made up thing for?
Yes, it is a made up thing.
For the title, because from the costumes, okay. So this match is truly, when we see this on screen, I out loud in a public space went, ha! In which there were people in this park with me, and multiple people turned and looked at me, which
Good.
was not great. Yeah, so... Oh, wait, what am I talking about? I'm thinking of a different part in the episode. I was inside by the time I watched this scene. What did I have? Anyways, Maggie, you might want to cut this out. I don't remember what I at.
Okay.
But I just yelled at, oh, you know what it was? It was the Worf scene. Because I went in during the Worf scene.
Oh.
And that's why I went inside, is because people were looking at me. Okay, anyways, I figured out my own timeline. Maybe we should just cut that whole chunk. Okay. So, Riker's wearing a bright red armor, and his dad's wearing like whitish gray. I wrote in my notes, they look like plastic knights.
Yeah. It's like kind of... It's
kind of like jousting, but like bad.
They're like samurai-esque outfits, because I think it's implied that this is like a Japanese martial art that's developed.
Yeah. And yeah, also according to the subtitles, it was like when I came inside to watch this scene, the subtitles said Japanese. So it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was so dumb. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. This was so stupid. Also, were they like those visors where they like they couldn't see?
Yeah.
So they're just like hitting these giant ass like lance Q-tip things at nothing. And then like Riker's dad Riker gets like a good hit in, but then his dad knocks him down a couple more times, and he's like, "You cheated. You always cheated. That's how you always won." And his dad's like, "Yeah, I cheated." Because like once you got to like 12 or 13 or something, I knew I couldn't beat you, so he had to cheat. And I'm like, wow, good parenting.
Because he's like, I had to keep you interested. And it's like, did you though?
You're also his dad, so that's kind of a weird thing to be like, I need to keep you interested. That's a weird thing.
Yeah, maybe you should put him into Ambo Jitsu classes where he can spar with people of his own or greater ability. You know,
Yeah.
You don't have to cheat to do it. Like, there's a lot of things he could have done.
Yeah. Oh, and then like Riker shouts out that he should have died instead of his mom, which is like a kind of intense thing to say. But yeah, this whole exchange is kind of stupid. It's very melodramatic. And he's like, yeah, she was your mom, but she was my wife. So like I hurt more. And so I'm a bad dad because I hurt more because I lost my wife. And it's like, yeah, that's not...
Yeah.
You were a shitty dad. You're just making excuses for why you're a shitty dad.
And Riker's accepting you because the script says that you're supposed to, and that's it.
Yeah. Because the thing that I don't know, are we done the recap yet?
Almost.
Okay.
So then Riker, this is my longest recap, I think. Like there's just so much at this daddy plot line. Oh, I think I wrote in there that like some of the lines of like, Kyle is Riker's father, but Picard is Riker's daddy.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay, I'll just finish it. It's very close. So like, I don't know, Riker and his dad find some kind of middle ground, which is kind of bullshit. And Riker decides very randomly that he's not going to take the captain job and he's going to stay as first officer. And then they do end up rebooting the ship like the engineers said that Data said at the beginning that it's dumb.
Yep.
So my biggest qualm with this episode is Riker didn't fucking make a decision.
No.
So, like, he told us his decision at the end, but at no point do we actually, like,
Yeah.
see what his process of, like, does he actually want the job? What are the pros? What are the cons? Nothing. We get nothing from Riker. We just get to see him being mad at his father.
Yep.
Which
Yeah,
is, like,
that's...
fine, but
And it
like,
doesn't resolve anything in the end either.
Yeah.
His dad just kind of says, "Oh yeah, well, I'm a person too," and Riker's like, "Okay," and then their fight is resolved.
Yeah, it's a very bullshit thing. Like, my qualm kind of stems from that, in that, like, we didn't really get much of Riker's perspective on this, other than he's mad at his dad, which from all the information we get seems pretty justified.
Yeah.
But Riker never gets to say his piece. In my opinion, this episode seems focused on you sympathizing with his dad.
Yes.
I feel like the episode leans heavily in favor of his dad rather than Riker, rather than exploring why Riker is so hurt.
Yes. The thing is that Riker's piece that we get to hear from it is entirely summed up by you should have died instead of her. And it's like, what the fuck kind of thing is that to say?
Yeah.
it's also so weirdly thrown in because the line is like Kyle goes, "You've been," so they start fighting, and then Kyle's like, "You've been practicing," and then Riker goes, "And remembering, you should have been the one to die, not her." What?
Yeah,
Riker.
that line
What a weird.
that line should have come in, like, more in the middle of, like, a heated argument.
Yes.
Because that's definitely, like, that's a fucked up thing to say, but that's definitely something someone who's, like, hurting a lot would say in the middle of, like, a highly emotional moment, during an argument, basically.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so weird because they try to boil this all down that the reason Riker is so mad and hurt is because his mom died. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm sure that contributed, but I think the real issue here was Kyle's parenting.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Because, like, even he admits Will was 2 when his mom died.
Yeah.
So, like, he didn't know her.
Yeah. And the thing, yeah, he would have essentially just, he probably wouldn't have even remembered. He would have basically grown up without a mom.
Yes. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm sure he's resentful that he didn't have a mom to, shelter him from his dad. That kind of thing. It's just, as someone with a lot of daddy issues, I take a lot of issue with this episode.
You take a lot of daddy issue with this episode.
Yeah, I feel like you're made to sympathize with what is essentially Riker's abuser.
Yes.
Because it's like Riker, from the tidbits we get, Riker was obviously essentially emotionally abused and neglected.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that's why he left home at 15. Also, one word I didn't hear out of Kyle's mouth that he would have said if he actually wanted to make things better, and that's sorry.
Yes.
Like, he's just like, oh, I did the best I could, get over it.
Yeah.
Like, he even says at one point, because Riker says, like, I've been on my own since I was 15. And then they have a couple more back and forths. They argue. And then Kyle says, it's like, well, I hung in for 13 years. If that wasn't enough, then whatever, And I'm like, you're his father. You're his
Yeah, you
fucking father.
signed up for this.
But like the conversation that they have in the observation lounge where he starts saying something like 2 or 3 times, and then he's like, "I'm holding my hand out to you, son." Yeah, but you're not saying anything.
Yeah, the only thing he says, like, in the observation lounge is like, they don't give you a manual for parenting.
Yep, stuff was hard.
I mean,
Stuff was
yeah,
hard.
there was here's the thing. There are how many years in the future, and we're in 2021, how many fucking books are there on parenting? You'd think that they would have some carryover to the future, but also, back in the 80s, I assume there were fucking books on parenting then as well.
Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, also, does he not know a single other parent? Can he not ask advice?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's a bullshit response. This is someone who like fucking can't take responsibility for his own shit. It's a bullshit answer. I think this guy, from seeing his behavior in this episode and from what we know about him, it seems like he assumed, like, you know, if he has a kid, that his wife would have just been taking care of the kid. He wouldn't have had to deal with it unless he wanted to. Because that's what sets up that he wasn't prepared for it. And he does seem like he's very work-oriented and that he likes being, like, you know, I hate to use the term popular, but, like, popular because he liked the attention that he got. He liked doing this job. He liked the acclaim and whatever. So I think that his plan was to, like, work and keep doing his shit while, like, his wife raised Riker. And that didn't happen. So I think he probably was like, well, there goes my dreams because my wife decided to die. Like that. I mean,
I don't know if I would
decide to die.
Yeah.
But it does seem that, like, there's probably a bit of hostility because he didn't get to do what he wanted to do.
I don't know if I would ascribe that to him. Personally, I don't interpret his character in that that's what he would have done. I definitely think that he was probably, like, an asshole anyway, like, before his wife died, but I imagine,
no,
like...
for sure. I don't think assholeness just, like, stems out of one thing. No, I assume this is what he was like before, but I would think that his, like, level of, you know, probably didn't get to have the same opportunities that he would have had if he didn't have to take care of a child. So just from, like, the conversation with... I mean, Riker left really young, so he was able to then jump back into his career younger than, like, maybe most would be able to in this sort of context. And I kind of get that from his conversation with Troy, where he is jealous of, like, he has contempt or something for Riker's success.
He's competitive with his own son, she says.
And he also takes credit for his son's success, which is even weirder.
Yeah, the point I was trying to get to earlier is that, like, in the observation lounge, when he says, like, oh, they don't give you a manual for parenting and stuff like that, it's like, that's not admitting that you made mistakes. That's not the same thing. Yeah. And that's what you need to do. If you really want to repair things, you need to admit that you made mistakes, that you were wrong, and that you know you're wrong and why you're wrong and all that kind of stuff.
To be fair, this is very much the kind of, like, tough love attitude that was born out of the 1980s.
Yeah, I guess. But that doesn't change my opinion on it.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm just trying to put it in the context of when it was written.
Yeah. I get it, but that's why we move forward from that.
True. I think it's important to point out the production issues with this episode. They weren't as much in the actual making of the episode part. They were more so in the writing. There was a large fart. There's a big fight with Gene Roddenberry over it. And obviously Roddenberry being the future is perfect kind of person that he is.
Oh, yeah, no one has daddy issues anymore.
Yes, actually, that was his opinion. There should be no kind of, like, emotional conflict. And the director's there just like, have you read the script?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want from us? And the director never worked with the Star Trek production again, despite being a fairly big fan of it, specifically because he didn't want to deal with Roddenberry shit anymore. I don't think he knew that Roddenberry got, like, basically kicked upstairs for good after this season and had very little input going forward. But, yeah, he caused a lot of problems here.
Yeah, I imagine that. I was thinking that it was kind of surprising that this type of story got made this early.
Yeah, especially considering how much, like, melodrama is in it, because the majority of the actual dialogue writing in it that is supposed to be, like, emotionally driven, it's melodrama at best, and it's cringe at its worst.
Yeah.
I know the conversation between Riker and Troy towards the climax of it is, like, when she's, like, crying in his arms and whatnot. I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, who fucking talks like this? Riker's talking like he's on a soap opera. What the hell?
Yeah,
very corny, but I couldn't help being like, oh, it's sweet, it's cute.
Yeah, that scene, it definitely is corny, but I still really liked it.
Oh, no,
Because-
that's fine. Like, I'm not criticizing whether or not you liked it, but that level of depth to the conversation is about the level that we see it for the rest of the episode. And, like, although the Worf bit was just a B-plot, I kind of wish that was the episode instead, because at least that was
Right?
entertaining.
Gee, I was literally thinking the Worf's plot literally could have been its own episode.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
like, it would have been such a nice way to get everybody in. Like, where was Picard in this episode?
Yeah.
He was maybe for, like, only a couple minutes. Popped in, popped out, had his conversation with Riker, and, like, that was it.
I honestly felt like when I was watching this episode, I'm like, I liked the B plot, but it didn't need to be in this episode. It
No,
could
it
be
didn't.
its own episode. And I think you could use that time to explore the relationship between Riker and his father more.
Yep. And Riker's decision. Like, this, there was no part of the decision-making process shown in this.
Nope. It is a first for it being the first time that Riker's offered a command, though, and it won't be the last.
I think he was offered a command earlier.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
I think Maggie's right. I think he was also.
At least
Okay.
twice at this point.
Okay, could be wrong then.
Yeah.
Everybody wants Riker.
No, everybody wants Kyle.
Ew.
Yeah.
No thanks. Hard pass.
Not even in a cold minute.
No, not in any length of minute. Or any temperature of a minute.
The biggest downfall, I think, is no one has a conversation with Riker asking him why he's so mad at his dad.
That's true.
Like, you'd imagine, like Troy talks to his father, maybe Troy could go talk to Riker and be like, why are you still so angry at him, and blah, 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 blah. I really resent that they made it all boil down to, it's like, you're a crybaby because your mom died, and not address the fact that he endured, years and years of terrible parenting.
And the idea that they had to fight,
Yeah.
like physically fight to like talk. I say talk in quotes because this was not a real conversation.
They didn't even really get into an argument either.
They did not.
They shouted briefly, and then they decided to put on these outfits and fight each other, and it just was like, this is honestly, I know it's like one of those like, this is what men do. They do action, not talk. No, fuck.
Yeah.
No.
I hated
that-
I hated that part of the episode where they're
This
Yeah,
like,
same
truly,
here. Same
in
here.
almost any other context, Riker fighting in this outfit would have fucking, I would have loved it. I think it would have been so fucking funny. But because of the situation he was in, I was like initially when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, what the
Yeah.
fuck? But like, the excitement was immediately taken away with like, no, he's fighting his dad.
yeah.
And for childish, not even childish, because you know what, I'm on Riker's side for this, like that he has every right to behave. It's just his dad dad is what, it's got to be in his 60s,
Yeah.
70s or something, and he's
Yep.
like still, okay, no, I'm gonna fight my child who's like, who's obviously upset. Like, it's
We're not fighting. We're just resolving differences. It's fine.
Yeah.
it's so infuriatingly like, it's such like a guy thing of like, yeah, we have to fight. No, don't fucking fight. Talk.
Yeah.
Nothing gets accomplished with a fucking fight. Just talk to somebody. Like, my God.
I think they try to address that, like, because both Pulaski and Troy are like, this is dumb, like, why are you guys doing this? But then this is the one part of the episode where I think Troy fails, is like, oh, after all this time, there are still some traits that are endemic to gender. And I'm like, this is not like just inherently because they're men, because it's not a biological thing, it's a societal thing. Having to like fight like this and shit, it's like, no, that's not. I'm just like, that's not endemic to gender. That like men are cavemen.
I think there's also like she says something along the lines of like men don't see their sons as adults, they see them as children, and then like men are children, but then somehow we're still attracted to them.
Yeah.
It's like, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody was like, yeah, I physically fought my dad, I'd be like, red flag.
Yeah. I really, really disliked when Riker was talking to Pulaski, and then she's like, oh, do you know why he never married? And then he's like, he had other priorities, and he's like, he bitterly says, like, his career, which, like, obviously is coming from somewhere, you know?
Well, like, that's part of the reason why I have my theory of, like, the career stuff.
And then she says, it's like, listen, before you go on your Ares mission, I would dump the emotional baggage. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, I just really hate how people are looking at Riker like the unreasonable one. Like, just showing up after 15 years and wanting forgiveness isn't, like, you know, a weird move.
Also, yeah, and also he only shows up because he's being offered captain of a ship.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, it's not like on any other kind of, it's like the top accomplishment, I suppose. And they're like, hey, like, that's the only time he wants to jump in to say hello. And I mean, I know also it's like, oh, this could be more dangerous than being on the Enterprise. So he's like, well, in case my son dies, I should maybe, you know, physically fight him before he goes.
And the thing is, I totally listen. No one is entitled to forgiveness.
Yeah,
you know, even if you hurt someone, and even if you've become like a perfect saint afterwards, they still don't have to forgive you. You know, no one's entitled to forgiveness. I understand maybe what the episode was. I understand maybe that, like, maybe they were trying to say that, like, Riker should let go of his anger, which, not for his father's sake, but for his own sake, I would agree with. Because, like, that's, it's similar to, like, my own personal journey with, like, my issues with my childhood and all that stuff. Because, like, a little bit of therapy corner here. If you want to move on with your life, you kind of have to let it go, and you kind of have to accept that you, like, 99%, you're probably not going to get the closure that you want. You're not, like, the person or people that hurt you or whatever are not going to admit that they did something wrong, like 99.9% of the time. It's not going to happen. So you kind of have to learn to let it go and move on and make peace with it. That doesn't mean you have to forgive the person, but you just, it's possible to just not be angry anymore, you know? But this episode is like, no, you should forgive him. They're not talking about, like, moving on and, like, making peace with your life and stuff. They're trying to, like, they're trying to establish forgiveness, which Kyle has, in my opinion, not done anything to warrant Will giving him a chance.
I agree.
And it's so weird, like, having all of this in an episode where, like, Worf is just mopey about his bar mitzvah.
Oh my, there's a song from 30 Rock called Werewolf Bar Mitzvah, and now this is like Worf Bar Mitzvah. This is the anniversary of his bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
I guess. Oh, Worf. Yeah. It just feels like it's anticlimactic.
Yeah, it's very anticlimactic. Like, the Riker ends up saying, like, I'm glad you came, but, like, with no real... It's so contrived. Like, nothing actually happened or was discussed that actually, like, made me believe that Riker changed his feelings on his dad.
No, same.
Plus, I think, honestly, I also would have liked if they, like, didn't do this episode so quickly after like learning that Riker's dad was like maybe not the best person in the world. Because like I think it was either last episode or 2 episodes ago when he was doing the eggs. And then like what next episode? Because I think in my prediction I was like I want it to be Riker's dad because they like talked about it. He mentioned his dad, but I didn't think it would be his dad because they just mentioned it.
Yeah.
So like it felt very abrupt. It's like, yeah, we know Riker's dad is bad. Surprise, it's Riker's dad. So
Yeah.
it just, I think the most frustrating is just trying to justify bad behavior. I think that's what I was trying to say before with like villains and trauma, whatever. What I really meant to say was I hate when people justify bad behavior or try to, redeem someone who's done all these bad things who doesn't deserve the redemption arc.
Yeah.
If it's just to like just like serving other things, it's really not necessary and it's not earned.
Yeah. Like people who believe they're allowed to act badly because they have trauma.
Yeah. Or like external, like something external makes them do it. Like it should be, if you want your redemption, it's got to come from actually wanting to be redeemed and do the work to, come out the other side. It shouldn't be like, oh, this happened, therefore I guess I have no choice. Or I don't know. I'm just thinking of a lot of these like movies and TV shows where they try to redeem the villain and it's just not earned. I think I'm also thinking about like they're talking there was like a article a while ago that they wanted to do like a prequel to like the Hunger Games movies because there was like a book about like President Snow who was like the villain and I'm like, we don't need that.
Yeah.
He literally is a bad person. Like what we're supposed to watch, okay, this is how he became the bad person. We know he is. Cool. I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I don't care. Stop trying to make me sympathize with someone who is a fucking bad person.
Like the whole Cruella de Vil movie.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it's not even like here's also my thing with Cruella. As someone who has devoted their lives to love dogs. I love dogs. I love dogs to a level when I hear like clanging of metal, I'm like, is that a dog tag? Where's the dog? Like I just dog radar. And they're like, hey, let's make a movie about the origins of a woman whose whole like plot was to like murder a bunch of puppies to make a coat.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, I love a good coat, but
yeah, I'm not gonna skin puppies for a coat.
Never. Okay, I just watched the last season of a this. Okay, there's a show called Castlevania. They just had season 4 come out on Netflix, and there was a scene where these like monsters are killing a bunch of people, and I was like, bummer. But then this monster comes down, and like this dog is barking, and the monster just tears apart this dog. And I wrote to my friend, this is 4 seasons of this incredibly graphically violent, brutal show, and the worst part was this dog being absolutely destroyed. And this was a cartoon dog. This was a cartoon, and I was like, that hurt more than all these people. Sorry, no offense to people, but
I mean, to be honest, I think most people are like that. It's like you watch a movie and someone dies and you're like, wow, sad. But a dog dies and people are devastated.
Yeah, I mean, Marley and Me.
Yeah. I don't even get that sad when like a baby dies.
Okay, no, baby.
Like in fiction. In fiction.
I don't know. I have a thing with kids. So when I was a child, a friend of mine was killed in a car accident. So I kind of have a thing about children dying.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Yeah. I was like, I think I was about 10 or 11. Yeah. Not great. But yeah, Cruella is a bad idea. I like Emma Stone, but yeah, stop trying to make villains. It's not like anti-hero stuff, which at this point I think is a little played out. It's just stop making villains seem relatable. It's not.
Yeah.
They're not. I don't care. Make some fucking original shit. Stop making origin stories of people who are just shitty.
I know, seriously.
Yeah, that's right. I'm calling out Hollywood. What a groundbreaking statement. No, sorry, I'm tired. Ignore me.
One thing I wanted to point out, the Embo Jutsu suits were motocross suits.
Oh.
Oh. Okay.
And the guy who played Kyle Riker was a villain in Lethal Weapon.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. All right, I guess we should move on to favorite bits and lines and all that good stuff.
Oh, I just remembered. There was one other thing that I did want to mention. Troy says that empathy is one of Dr. P's, like, biggest assets.
Oh,
and I was like,
yeah.
bitch, where?
Yeah.
Bitch, where?
I'm like,
Where?
nope. You must be talking about some other Pulaski.
Yeah, this is like the same, and then this is the same conversation that like goes between the same people later on, where Dr. Pulaski is like, yeah, Klingon culture is like not. She goes, I'm just glad humans have progressed beyond the need for barbaric display.
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah, you're shitting on Worf's culture.
Yeah, that's that's a pretty
Bro.
bad thing to say about someone's like cultural practice, you know?
Yes.
I mean, everybody has got something in their customs and whatever that's a little like people don't understand. Hell, there's a lot of stuff in my own and other people's cultures and I'm like, what? Why? But
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna, well, maybe I'll shit on it a little bit, but
Yeah.
but I'm also not a doctor and nobody said my best quality is that I'm empathetic.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair to be like, oh, that's weird. I don't get it. Like, that's fine. But just to be like, oh, it's so barbaric. Like, unless they're like sacrificing babies or something, it's like, just let people do what they do.
Yeah.
You know?
And normally if I have questions, I'll be like, what? Then I will be like, excuse me, explain how this works.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
And then just walk away. I'll be like, I need more information than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I call bullshit. I really have like the writers really, I don't think quite grasp their characters sometimes.
Yeah.
Because like all I thought about was like how shitty Dr. P treats like Data.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, yeah, empathy.
Yeah. And that was especially potent for me because I just edited the Elementary Dear Data episode, which is like a whole scoop of Pulaski being terrible to Data, of like going out of her way to be prejudiced to Data.
Yeah, I would not use empathy as a word or empathetic to describe Dr. P. So, Troy, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I guess now we can move on to
Yeah.
favorite moments. Okay, I will say, I did like that after Worf's been teasered a few times and he gets to the end of that hallway and is like, thank you. Mm-hmm. I really like that Worf was like, they did it for me. Like,
Yeah.
you could see that thank you was genuine. And I was like,
These are
"Aw,
my buds.
that's nice. Like, I'm happy for Worf. I just like, I want more Worf. I like Worf so much. That I enjoyed that he was like, it seems like he was genuinely touched that like Wesley put in the effort and set this up so he could celebrate and put all the customs and everything in place so it felt as it should. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For lines. Okay. So Data goes, excuse me, Lieutenant, this is to Worf. Excuse me, Lieutenant. Oh, this is in 10 forward.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Lieutenant, you seem to have lost the will to communicate with others. You have friends here. We care about you. Why, just recently, Geordie, Wesley, and I were saying, and then Worf interrupts and he goes, with all due respect, be gone, sir. Oh, Worf. Gosh, Worf is great. I really like that. I think there's like also a lot of lines that I noted that was just like, I wrote down the entire Troy and Kyle conversation where she just like reads him and you sort of get to see his like bit of his true personality. I don't know if I should read that though. It's kind of long.
No,
Yeah.
no, don't.
Yeah.
Is there any like particular moment of that back and forth that
I did like the respect is earned, not bestowed, because he's like, what do I need respect for? It's like, you don't want your child to respect you?
yeah.
That's like the number one thing. Is like, if somebody doesn't respect you, what are you doing? What are you spending time with this person for? Why would you want to hang out with someone who doesn't hang out as if they're friends? But like,
And also her point was not necessarily like strictly about respect. It was more about like you get what you give. So like, you know, don't expect him to just forgive you for like without you doing anything.
yeah. Oh, I just remember there's another part in this exchange that I thought was kind of not my favorite part, but it was kind of doesn't make sense to me. So they're talking about so Kyle's like Troy's talking about, oh, you know, really competitive with him, that's why blah blah blah, and then Kyle goes, competitive maybe in the past, but I've come here to help Will prepare for his first task as captain. Then Troy goes, are you sure he'll accept such a dangerous assignment? Then Kyle goes, he'll accept it just because it is dangerous. And then Troy is, how can you be so sure? And he goes, because that's what I would do. We aren't so different, Will and I call bullshit. From everything that we've seen of Riker, I don't think he would pick something because it's dangerous.
Yeah. Also, Kyle,
That's-
you haven't talked to him in 15 years.
Yeah, so how would you know how similar, different... You know his successes, you know his, like, track record, but you don't know who he is as a person.
Yeah.
And this obviously proves that, because first of all, Riker obviously didn't go with it, didn't become the captain of the Ares, and Riker has always seemed kind of, I mean... He seems always kind of rational. I mean, for the most part.
Yeah.
And so to pick something exclusively because it's dangerous it's not a Riker thing to me at all.
No, I agree.
So
Yeah.
that is absolute fucking nonsense. You know what I would have liked? I would have liked a scene between Picard and Kyle.
Yeah. That would have been
I
good.
want Picard to be like, you treated your son in a
Yeah.
shitty way, and now I have to be your son's father.
Yeah. Well, Picard kind of seemed like blissfully unaware that this is the relationship that they have. Because Picard kind of, like, in retrospect, he seems like excited that Riker's dad is going to surprise him and come on board. He doesn't seem aware that they have a rocky relationship. So it would have been interesting to see Picard realizing that and what his views on it would be.
Yeah. Instead, this was just nothing happened.
I mean, they had a conversation once, but it was like two dads talking about how excited they are about their son who's standing right next to them, and they're not talking about it to him.
I have to say, I think Jonathan Frakes was really good in this episode. To me, it really, like, that resentment really read well, I think. I think he did a good job with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think my main issue ends up being just how terribly cringy the fucking writing was. And, like, I honestly do not have a favorite, like, moment that isn't just all of the Worf stuff. I thought that was interesting. That was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I really liked how excited Wesley was getting. But I was cringing through most of it. Like, it was... The writing was painfully melodramatic. The writing was not exploring the actual situation at all. And I just didn't like any of it.
Yeah. Like, I was so annoyed when, like, Worf goes to talk to Riker, and Worf is like, oh, you don't have good feelings about your father or whatever. And Riker starts to explain, but then stops. And I'm like, no, this is what this episode needs. We need to hear Riker's side.
Also, it was very cute. Worf wanted to go with Riker.
Yeah.
It was also a little weird. Still to die in battle. Like, Worf, no one's gonna go to battle. Like, you know you're being weird because of your Age of Ascension thing, but, like, why bring that up with Riker if it's not gonna amount to anything?
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, Worf is the one who'd want to go into dangerous situations versus Riker. Give Worf the captain of the Ares.
There we go.
Yeah. I think the only other part that was like, it's so tiny and so minor at the end of the episode, Picard is like, oh yeah, the engineer said to like basically restart the computer, and which is what Data said, and then they just go to Data and he just does this like shrug with his arms.
Yeah.
That was pretty amusing. I screenshotted that.
It was great. Somehow even Data's in this so little and yet still manages to
stuff
be
is great.
to pull together a favorite part of Data.
Because when Worf tells him to buzz off and he walks away and he does that extra little turnaround, it's so funny. Honestly, I don't really have a favorite moment, but I do have a favorite line. And that's like really early in the episode when Wesley is having his hot goss with Worf.
It's so good. I love that.
And Wesley's like, oh, can you believe Riker's dad is on board?
Yeah.
And I forget how it gets to this point, but Worf goes, it's like, I never knew my father. And then Wesley says, and I didn't have a father long enough to know him.
Oh.
Which, like, they completely just, like, gloss over that statement.
It's like played way too casually.
Yeah, I thought, for me, that's gold. I love that.
Yeah. Oh God, that gossip sequence was just...
and I didn't have a father long enough to know him. Oh God, that's so horrible. Okay, so on that note, we'll get into predictions for the next episode, and Jeff's taking this one.
So, Dory, the next episode is called Pen Pals, and in this episode, Data makes a friend.
Oh, it's so cute. Okay, so first of all, data-centric episode? Yes. Okay, pen pals. And he makes a friend. I just keep thinking about ghosts. Data wouldn't have to be pen pals with a ghost. That's weird.
You never know.
I mean, I think like of all things in this universe, I don't think ghosts are a thing. Oh God. Okay, so I have to come up with a whole thing on just Data makes a friend and pen pals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. I've got start of something. We'll see where my mouth takes me. Okay. So Data had a pen pal like years ago, and someone he kept like in contact with for quite a while, and then all of a sudden the pen pal like, oh wait, nobody makes a friend. Fuck, my theory doesn't even make sense anymore because this is a new friend.
Jeff, check your Telegram again.
Oh, yes. I like that.
Okay. So we'll
Wait,
give
is
you...
this a clue?
Yeah, we'll give you an additional
Yes.
hint.
Okay, yes.
So the additional hint is that there's going to be a lot of Prime Directive discussion.
Oh my God. Why is it the first thing I thought of was Data's pen pal is a terrorist? God. Okay, nope. All right, so maybe... Okay, so Data's obviously got a pen pal. Watch, the pen pal isn't even Data's. I'm just assuming it's his. So they go by a planet and Data gets a message and he's like, oh, okay, this is like cool. And so he starts messaging back and forth with this new pen pal. And the pen pal then like tells Data like, oh, we need some help. Can you like come down and help us? But then when they go down, it's like something, well, if it's Prime Directive shit, then it's like, oh, it's something we really shouldn't be involved in. But then like the pen pal starts to like kind of guilt Data and being like, well, you said you do whatever you can to help. And Data's like, well, I'm sorry, but like, we're not really, this is not like our jurisdiction. We can't really do anything. And the pen pal's like, you're an asshole. And then Data's like, I'm sorry. And yeah,
right.
I basically, the pen pal, I kind of liked my original idea better, but I don't think it makes sense. Because if he makes a new friend, I was like, what if it's an old pen pal and then suddenly shows up again and Data's like, oh my God, I haven't heard from this person in a long time. It's the same sort of concept that the pen pal needs help. But I liked the idea of like, it was an old pen pal that Data was like, oh, I haven't heard from this person in a long time. And now they're reaching out to me now because they need help. But if it's a new friend, or maybe he's being catfished.
I like
that.
Yeah. I also like your idea of the pen pal being a terrorist.
Yeah, maybe the pen pal is the one who's like, oh my, okay. I mean, like, all of this is like connected, but at the same time, okay, what if maybe it's a setup? Maybe it's a setup to make Starfleet look bad. So Data's got his pen pal. They're messaging for like a while, and then they're like, we need help. So they come down, and they're in this situation, whatever the situation is, due to the pen pal. They caused the problem. And they're like, hey, they specifically sought out to Data because they knew Data would help, or offer to help or something. Because maybe they had some kind of like preconceived idea, like they knew who Data was prior, and it's a setup to make Starfleet look bad of like, look, they're not going to help us when they're like, hey, we can't get involved in this thing. It's against the Prime Directive. And they're like, look, they're bad. Like they're just like not really here to help. They're just going to let everybody suffer. Yeah. Yes. Ooh. No, I'm probably wrong, but I just like the idea of a setup.
You're allowed to be wrong.
Yeah. But I just like the idea that it could be a setup.
Ooh, okay. So, if you'd like to find out, watch along with us and join us next time for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.